Okay. Welcome to the February 9th, 2021 Environmental Advisory Council meeting for Doylestown Township. Let us call our meeting to order with our handy cardinal. Bang, 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 meeting come to order. So welcome everyone. It's great to see you all and let's get started. We had January 12th meeting minutes. Did everybody have a chance to review those?
Yes.
Yes.
And is there any comment or correction to the January minutes?
Thank you. Thank you, Kurt.
Okay. Yes.
Yep,
we're
they
good.
look good.
Okay, we're good.
Yep.
All right, last call for comments. Motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I second.
All right, and I'll approve the minutes. Aye.
Aye.
Good. Hi, Carol. Welcome. Hi, Dan. Welcome.
Hello.
The second item on the agenda is our monthly budget review. Did you notice that our budget for 2021 is $5,500?
Yes.
Okay, so, let's go for it.
But Janine, I wanted to ask, because in the general ledger, the starting balance was only 25 and change. I wasn't sure, shouldn't the general ledger start the year with the same amount as the, let me try to open it up here, but.
It
I didn't
doesn't, Jim. I
understand.
think because of the way the accounting goes.
Okay, so the budget versus actual, okay, that started with 5,500 and we spent nothing. But then the general ledger says beginning balance $2,426. I'm not sure why they're different, starting from January 1st of this year.
And you're the person who pays the closest attention to this, but Aaron, maybe you can help us answer that.
I would have to
It's a
give
very mysterious process, but they generally there's a lag time for some reason in between there's a lag time. I don't know why. I think because they're closing out the books or something, but then it should show the 5,500 just that after this month.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for catching that though, Jim. Aaron?
Yeah.
I believe that's correct, but I'll double check and get back to the group.
Okay, thanks. So just so that we know what's going on there. Anything else about the budget?
Do keep in mind that your budget is going to be reduced by about $2,500 shortly.
Oh, we had not heard that.
What?
That's for the fossil signs.
Those
Oh,
two fossil
what?
signs were that much money?
That's correct.
Why
What are they made out of?
Wow.
They are steel framed. The reason they are more expensive than usual is that our previous welder that we used in-house, he is retired and we don't have someone with a similar skill set yet. So we are having to order the stands and everything from the vendor.
Oh, well, you know what? I think we should negotiate that. I did not realize that. Aaron, you did check with me this week that.
I did also send you the quote as well.
Yeah, and I did not see that that was going to be so expensive. I wonder if we can negotiate at least partial help from perhaps Parks and Rec.
I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that as well.
Yeah, so the issue is that because we don't have someone on staff to make the frame and the stand, we now have to buy that from Fossil, who is the vendor for the signs. It seems to me that the signs have traditionally come out of the EAC budget, but not that frame and not the post.
That's correct, because we did those in-house.
So the frame and the post, Aaron, am I right that they're about $800 each then?
That's right.
Wow.
That
And
sounds
part
excessive.
of that increase as well is because instead of just shipping the sign, they are now shipping the entire stand. So it does increase the weight and size of the packages as well.
Right, right.
Can you
I
give us,
get it, but that's a lot of money.
it really is. That's a lot of our budget. And Aaron, can you give us some guidance soon about whether some of that cost can be absorbed by the township?
Yeah, I'll talk to Stephanie and Karen.
Okay, thanks. And then somebody can get back to us.
So I'm guessing that the signs themselves, the actual printed stuff is still about $400 each. Is that about right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and that is what we're used to paying for.
Yeah, the price for the signs hasn't changed. It's everything else that goes into it, along with the increased shipping costs.
Right, got it.
Where are they shipped from, if I may ask?
They are shipped from Fossil's location, which is not local here, and they have to be palletized because of the weight.
Is it something that can't be made closer to home so there isn't so much shipping cost?
It's possible, but I'm not sure of that at this point.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Okay, I don't know about that either. This is the first time we're confronted with this additional cost. So let's sit tight on this, and
Can
we'll
we
just-
call Butch? Have him make frames for us?
Yeah, he used to make the frames. Okay, well,
Would there be some wisdom in contacting the vendor to ask them to hold if they haven't already begun, that we need to reconsider?
Unfortunately, they have already begun production.
Still worth asking.
Well,
okay.
we want
so-
the signs for sure.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
we
we
want the
need-
signs. We put a
We
lot of
do
work
want
into
the signs. Yeah.
Yeah, the issue is the frame and the post.
You can't see yourself, you can see everybody else, I believe.
It sounds like maybe Marty's coming on.
Come on!
Wow.
Yay, hi.
Marty, welcome back, stranger. It's nice to have you here at our meeting, Marty.
All right.
We're talking about additional cost for the signs that we're building. We're having manufactured for the trees. We have 2 tree signs. And I think that I don't want to spend too much more time on this because I have to watch our time for this meeting. So let's leave it at this. Aaron, can you and I talk tomorrow or email back and forth tomorrow? Will you be able to see Karen or communicate with her?
Yeah, I should be able to get some time with them in the morning tomorrow.
Okay, and then we'll communicate, and then we'll let everybody know what the status is of that of the post and frame expenditures.
Sounds like a plan.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
for all
Aaron.
your input. Thanks. Okay, oh, Marie is here. That looks like Marie Carrata.
Yeah.
And another guest, Leslie. Welcome to both of you. Leslie, we've not seen you before. Marie, we've certainly seen you before. Leslie, can you just tell us who you are?
Sure. Hi. Yeah, I'm a former EAC volunteer with Springfield Township, Montgomery County. Particularly interested in watersheds and stuff. And then I'm a Montgomery County Master Gardener, and native plant fan, and a friend of Marie's. So she mentioned your meeting tonight, and I said I'd be interested in attending. I don't really, have an agenda other than to support Marie. But
Welcome.
nice to meet you. Thank you very
Nice
much.
to meet you. And I wish we could see Marty, but we cannot. So we will.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, we
There's
can see
Marie.
Marie, but we can't see Marty. Yeah, Marty. Yeah, Marty. Okay, so proceeding. Under new business, our first item mentions Colleen Mullen and her interest in discussing yard and leaf pickup in the township, but she is ill. So she will not be at our meeting tonight. So we'll put her on the agenda for March, if that's okay.
Of course.
And you had expressed an interest in perhaps being a point person on that discussion, but let's just defer it till March.
Yep, that's fine.
Thanks. But you are up on new business item B. If you look at the agenda, it says that Anne would like to explore a tree program that Upper Makefield Township has been using. So Anne, take it.
Well, hopefully everybody got the email that I had sent out with a little bit of background about that so that I wouldn't take up too much time in our meeting tonight. And the clipping from the Herald that sparked the interest. Upper Makefield Township has a program called the Tree Grant Program, where they directly reimburse residents who plant trees. They do encourage that they plant native trees. I'm not sure if that is a requirement or not. I did speak on the phone with Bud Baldwin, who is the EAC chair for Upper Makefield. He's a very nice man. I think he's probably a little bit on the older side. And when I asked if he could send me materials, he didn't feel like he could do that, but I can contact the office tomorrow They meet at the exact same time. They're meeting now. Yeah, we're on second Tuesday at 7. So there was no, I thought, oh, I'll sit in on their meeting. That didn't work. So he said to contact the Upper Mayfield office tomorrow, which I will do. And they were finalizing the form for the residents to fill out tonight at their EAC meeting. And he felt that would be prepared then for tomorrow. So I'm thinking that this is a program, although the way it was written up in the paper sounded like it'd been something that had been going on. It feels like to me like maybe it's a brand new program because they are just developing the form for the resident to fill out for their reimbursement. But they had, as I said in that article, it's a reimbursement of $50 a tree. That generally does not cover the full cost of a tree, unless you're getting just a tiny whip. So there, it's an assistance, not a full funding of the tree, so to speak. And they include, if the resident opts for it, $25 towards planting. That's either towards paying someone to plant it or for materials like stakes and mulch and maybe soil amendments for the whole, that kind of thing. And then $4 to $6 for either deer guard or fencing around the newly planted trees. So I thought it seemed very intriguing. I will contact the office tomorrow and see if I can get a little more information directly about how this works, but the funding is done by, I guess, docking developers when they take out trees for a new development, that all those trees are measured. An assessment is made on the value of the trees that they're going to have to remove, and that money gets put into this tree fund. And the residents are eligible for up to $975 in rebates on trees. So that's a pretty generous rebate program. I don't know what happens if they run out of money. I don't know what happens, who does the handling of the funds. Obviously, it's not their EAC. It would not be our EAC. We don't do anything with money. That has to be township officials. But I thought it was an interesting program. I suspect that we have something like that. Dan, maybe you would know, already in place, but I don't know where the money might be going to at this point. It's not going into a tree grant program. So I'm wondering if there can be some thought about that. And if there is, I'd be happy to take it or write up a presentation for the board.
I think there would be an interest in it. Again, I'm not super sure where the money would be coming from exactly on that. I would talk to Jen about that on the planning commission, that kind of thing. She might have a little more insight on that.
Okay, I can contact her. I know that the Grazo site that's near me, that's been under discussion since I think it's 2004. There's still nothing on it, but they've taken out trees now twice and they've been fined. So there was money generated from their illegally taking out trees. I don't know what happened to those funds. That's not part of what I do on EAC, but I think that most townships, most municipalities, let's put it this way, assess a value for trees that get taken out. And as I said in that email to you guys, the recent Toll Brothers project netted, it wasn't a huge project either, but it netted $60,000 for this tree grant program in Upper Makefield. So there's certainly money out there. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't have to come from taxpayers. It doesn't have to be a board generated, you don't have to float a bond or anything like that. This is taken from developers in exchange for their removal of trees.
So Dan, is there where does that money go in Doylestown Township?
I'm not clear if we have a in the case of Grasso, it's a little different because they weren't supposed to do that to begin with.
Right.
As far as our other developers, usually when they discuss things for it, it's usually a one in, one out kind of, not that ratio, but that kind of idea. Like you have to replace X amount of trees that you take out. My concern funding it this way long term is we don't have much left in Doylestown to develop at this point. So I'm not sure, like, long term, how much money we would have through that possible revenue stream to pursue this. It's also a personal desire of mine. I don't want to see us develop too much more of what we have,
Right.
but just because there's not a whole lot left. So I mean, that's a much larger discussion than here, but it's something to consider about when we're looking at possible sources of funding for this.
So Anne, you're going to get more from Upper Makefield. And
Yes.
I guess once you get a better handle on what's going on there, will you pursue getting some of the questions answered from our township?
Yeah, I think I'll follow up on Dan's suggestion that I talk to Jan Herring and see, or contact her and see if planning if she's on planning, then she would have a better sense, I think, of how monies might come and go for that particular type of application.
Okay.
So I'll follow up on it.
Okay.
I needed to know whether there was any interest on EAC in trying this program.
What do you guys
Well, I
think?
think the concept sounds very good, actually. And the principle sounds very, very good.
So it might be interesting when in your conversations, if you ask about, what happens if there's no more, if there isn't any money left in the fund? Is there some
Yes.
sort of clause
Yeah.
or something that's included?
Thanks. I totally agree with that, Tanya. Yeah.
And also, does somebody have to enforce it? Do you just accept the form, or does somebody have to see the tree? Or is there, it's not a lot of money, but on the other hand, you don't want it to be abused either.
Right. Well, without seeing the form, it's a little hard for me to answer that, but I'm assuming you need to enclose a photo or show a receipt or something that documents the fact that, yes, you actually bought trees.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions or comments for Anne as she pursues this initiative?
And I think it's a great idea. Whatever we can do to support trees being, planted here in our township, I'm all for it. Thank you for
Thanks,
taking the
Heidi.
time.
Thanks.
We are all about trees. Come on. We're the Shade Tree Commission too,
Yeah, it supports Ready for 100 also. That's one of the tenants in Ready for 100 is more tree
Absolutely.
canopy. So it's integrated to other projects that we're already doing.
And it's important too with all the ash trees that we've lost. And also, like I mentioned to you, Ann, too, I'm in a neighborhood that's really close to where the tornado went down. And a lot of my neighbors lost that mature overstory, and a lot of trees need to be planted. So
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It might be perfect for at least that neighborhood, if nothing else.
Yep.
Thanks, Anne, for taking the reins on this then. It
Sure.
sounds like we're behind you and waiting to hear more.
Let me get more information and I'll get back to everybody
Thank
sooner
you.
rather than later.
Good. Looking forward to hearing about it some more. Incidentally, did everybody notice that Marty is now visible?
Yeah,
Hi, Marty.
Good to actually see you again, Marty.
We missed you. We missed you, Marty.
All right.
Okay, moving along. Subcommittee reports. What about Ready for 100? Kurt, is that can you address what you're doing with that?
Sure. So the Ready for 100 group just adopted its long-term plan for the next several years. And significantly, in addition to the work that's been going on, which is basically getting cities, townships to adopt the resolution, now we're moving to the second step of having them put together action plans. And I think this is a key development on Ready for 100 that we're now have as a goal to have, Jim, help me with, is it 8 over the next 4 years?
8.
Yeah, is that the number?
That is
Yeah.
8.
Yep.
And move to the second phase of developing action plans, that's going to be key. While we love to be able to score the folks adopting the resolutions, nothing actually changes until they adopt an action plan and start taking concrete actions. And of course, some of the townships are running well ahead and doing things without ever doing the resolution and the action plan, and that's fine. That doesn't hurt our feelings, but ultimately this has to turn into action. And I think that significant step that the group took, is to set a goal for doing some of those action plans and getting those into the process and getting the towns focused on what are they actually going to do to implement that resolution.
So Kurt, is the group still meeting monthly?
Yes.
Excellent.
And we've had some additions to the group as well. So, you know, the reach is expanding a little bit, which was also clearly part of what we wanted to do, was pull more townships into it so that we could have a more effective group. We're also working on getting the county lined up for it, which would be another key step. Not so much that the county has too many actions to take, but they can play a very important role in helping persuade towns, and also in a coordinating role, or in a large scale purchasing role.
Yeah, Chris, I actually want to chime in on that. Have you had direct contact with the county about that yet?
We're presenting a draft resolution to them to
Okay,
review
because
with some
I got-
information.
Yeah, I'm asking because I got an email from Commissioner Harvey about 2 weeks ago that their planning commission was looking to do more environmental initiatives. They didn't mention Ready for 100 specifically, but looking at resolutions they could pass to kind of unify the goals for the different townships. Also taking into account that townships across Bucks County are very different in what they can do.
Yeah.
But there is an interest in it. They just haven't mentioned, in his email, he didn't mention Ready for 100 by name.
Well,
He didn't have the resolution yet.
He hadn't seen it at that point, but he's going to have seen it very, very soon.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to pass along that there is interest, and they sent that to several of the township supervisors across the county.
That's great. Well, we're sending him a draft of a resolution, and we're volunteering to send probably Jim to go talk to them to answer their questions. So we're primed and ready to go on that one.
Well, that's encouraging.
Yeah. And let me just say quickly that, within our own township, we do have a subcommittee. We have not met in a while, to be honest. And I think that's something we probably should do. That's some things to talk about. One thing I did do is I did have a chance to meet with Stephanie and the township and Aaron to talk about the value of putting in an EV charging station. Long story short, the township does not currently have any vehicles that would, or have any plans for a vehicle in the near term that would benefit from an EV charger, for the township staff. And I think there was some reluctance to put one in a public place. You'd have to dig up the parking lots and run wire and so on and so forth until we knew, where to put it and if it would be used and so on and so forth. So there wasn't tremendous enthusiasm at this point. They did, of course, mention that if we have if we build this rec center, then of course that would be an obvious place to maybe do something like that. So I'll stay on top of that. But with regard to our township, the subcommittee has not met, and I think we probably should, because we also have to create an action plan for our town. And I'd love to be involved in that. I don't have time right now, but I am hoping that in the second half of this year, my work schedule will start to significantly decrease, and I'll be able to spend much more time on that. And I would love to lead that, but I have to figure out a few other things first. But I'd like to suggest that maybe Kurt, maybe you and I and Tanya meet offline at some point in the next few weeks and just see what we might do to keep this moving.
Sounds good.
You bet.
Thank you. Thank you. I am glad to hear that this is alive and well. And it'll be interesting to see where this goes in coming months. Just one quick question from me. Who on the township staff will meet with you when you do have a township meeting?
Well, I mean, I guess we'd have to take advice from Stephanie and from Dan, of course. I think Dave Tomko would be a central person for that. In fact, when we talked about the EV charger, Dave's point was, we'd love to work with you. Please bring us a plan. We would love to see what your plans are to guide us going forward, and which of course is perfectly sensible. That's what he should say. So that's on us to do that. And as I say, I'm going to try to devote more time to this in the coming months.
Okay, thank you.
Can
Thanks.
I ask a quick question? Was there any appetite now for doing a coordinator or somebody to harness all the energies of the various townships or municipalities that are interested in Bucks? Is there any thought about hiring that person?
What you mean, like you mean for
Like
the
Montgomery
township
County
level?
did?
At the township level or at the county level?
At the the municipalities in Bucks that have traction on this to go
Well-
together to hire a coordinator.
Well, I mean, we're a pretty loosely affiliated group. We don't have any funding. I mean, right now it's Buckingham, Doylestown, and Solbury. Solbury's already doing their own thing. They're way out ahead. West Rock Hill is doing their own thing. So at this point, I think it's Buckingham and Doylestown Township that really are sort of in the same place. And and we don't have any funding. And so, I mean, unless the townships themselves wanted to allocate some money to this, I mean, the idea of perhaps a regional energy transition plan makes perfect sense, but of course you're going to have to get the townships to agree to that. So,
Right.
and now there are initiatives to help townships create their own energy transition plan. So there's a woman named Paula Klein who's running a group very successfully. Solbury loves it, and they're going to have their own energy transition plan based on this model that she's created. I've also seen other sort of templates for, create your own energy transition plan. So I'm not even sure that we need to hire somebody. I mean, I think if we had a couple of people really dedicated and had time, and you got some guidance, we could probably do 75% of it on our own. A lot of it is things like data collection and data analysis, So I don't think we are in a position where we have money to do this yet, but I think if we could, if we could get to a certain point, then it might make sense to hire somebody to help implementation or something like that. And again, if the county gets involved, that could be huge. I mean, I don't know, but
yeah.
So one last thing on this, Kurt, how are you doing with the energy analysis, the energy use analysis?
Plugging away. I may very well have some results for our next meeting,
Oh, great.
Well,
at least
that'd be-
preliminarily. So
Okay, thanks. All right, moving along.
Thank you for doing that, Kurt.
Thanks. Moving along then. Next on subcommittee, native plant demonstration garden. That's my baby. And so let me report that there are 29 master gardeners in Bucks County who have volunteered to help with the native plant garden expansion. We won't be seeing 29 master gardeners there all at once because I can't imagine that would be efficient. However, it's very encouraging to know that there are 29 master gardeners who want to help. And so our first work day of 2021 will be March 24th, Saturday, from 9 to 11 a.m. And I think we're going to have a lot of hands to do the winter cleanup and to begin the removal of a lot of invasives in that expansion area. So I'm very encouraged about the native plant garden. It's probably looking a little messy right now. And in fact, if you go over there, you'll see that there are some ribbons on some trees and shrubs because one of our volunteers was able to walk the expansion area with his professor from Del Val and mark the valuable native trees to keep and some non-native invasives to get rid of immediately. So we're moving along with the native plant expansion and work will continue starting March 24th. That's not that far away.
Do you mean March 20th?
It's a Saturday, so I thought it was the 24th.
It's the 20th.
The 20th?
Yeah.
Is it? Oh, I thought it was the 20th. Okay, I'm wrong then. Okay, forgive me.
That's all right.
But it's the last Saturday of the month.
I think
Well, then it's the
Marty's going-
27th.
It's the 27th. Thank you, Tanya. Okay, the
Mhm.
27th of March, the last Saturday of the month from 9 to 11 a.m. So we'll see how our cleanup goes. And I'm really encouraged, as I said, because we have plenty of hands now and they're experienced hands. These are people who will, I think, really be valuable additions to the work over at the garden.
Where's this area supposed to be?
I'm sorry, what was that?
The new garden? Where?
What was that, Marty? Marty? Oh,
He
say
wants
again.
to know where the new garden is going to be. Where is it going to expand to?
Oh,
On the
okay.
other side of our garden now, or in the back of where we're working?
Oh, good. That's better. It's going to be, if you stand at the entrance of the bird blind with your back to the bird blind, it's that area directly across from it, where the wood pile, where the brush pile is.
Where the mulch pile is, in that area there?
Yeah, yeah, to the left of the mulch pile and across from the bird blind. That whole area.
On that side, can a little bit be on the other side? I'm thinking about the sassafras grove.
The sassafras grove, we have a spot. I need to talk to you about where to put your sassafras grove. If you can get the trees, we have a spot.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Maybe you can get them this spring.
Right, I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. Did you say like 7 or 9?
Yes.
Okay, if you can get them, we can place them.
All right.
Okay, so we'll talk about that. I hope you can be at the garden on the 27th.
I should be able to make that.
Okay, that'd be great. Marty is one of our longtime volunteers at the garden. Valuable, lots of knowledge. To move along then, Heidi, I know you have a lot to say about Birdtown this month.
I do. I have a lot of things for you guys. So I'll just go through my list. We were gonna have, I had tried to schedule 4 bird walks for this year. I had it back down to 3 because Diane Smith was only available for 3. So the dates are the same except for September 18th. So I had to pull September 18th off, but we have 2 for the spring migration and 1 for the fall migration. So it should be lots of fun. It's family focused, and we'll be meeting at Central Park for that. The second thing is I put a calendar together just for the beginning of the year, which includes those bird walks as well as some birding events that are coming up at Wyncote as well as Bowman's Hill. And also the great backyard bird count is this weekend. So I wanted to let everyone know about that. It's from the 12th to the 15th. It's something you can do at home. If you're interested in doing that, you can just go online and look it up, and you can put your observations out on eBird. So that's coming up. Let's see what else. And then our bluebird box nesting box clean out is coming up at the end of the month on February 27th, starting at 9 o'clock. I have 4 teams this year, which I'm super excited about.
Wow.
We have 9 people total. I reached out to our last group from last year because I wasn't hearing from anybody, but the Neils are going to be helping out, Vicky and Bonnie Oliver and Ann Callahan and Barbara Brown, as well as Janine. So thanks to all them. So I'm super excited about that.
Awesome. Yeah, Steve's going to help too.
Oh, good. So I'm putting a little assessment chart together this year of just assessing the boxes, and I'll send that to you guys later. But what condition the boxes are in. Was there any information? Was there any nesting material in there? Is there a bird in there? Was there a dead bird? Is it a safe place for the birds to brood and so on? So we have a little checklist together to make it to gather more information about the boxes. Let's see what else.
Heidi, I have a couple of boxes that have been sitting in my basement that I'd love you to take and have them. I'm trying to clean up a little bit, so I'll try to get those boxes to you.
Oh, that'd be great, Jen. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. One last thing is, as far as where Birdtown is, Mid-Atlantic Audubon and Audubon, PA, there's a merger going on. And so Birdtown's kind of been just hanging there. So I reached out to Val Peckman, and we're going to be meeting next week to talk more about the status of Birdtown and where that's headed. So I'm excited about the meeting. She said it's not a dead program, that's still alive. And we're going to talk more next week about what that means and where it's headed. So I think that's everything. Let me just go through my little list. And that is everything for Birdtown. Thank you.
Heidi, is it possible with Aaron's help to get the Great Backyard Bird Count advertised on the township website and Facebook page?
Aaron, do you want me to send you some information? Could you get that up to maybe tomorrow if that's possible?
Yeah, Heidi, you send me the information. I can get it prepared for those things.
Good idea.
It's one of these really cool citizen science projects that I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years. you call your own time, your own place. You can just watch birds for 15 minutes or for 15 hours. And then you register on the website and put in your data. And then it becomes part of an enormous data collection at Cornell. And
Okay.
yeah, so it's a terrific citizen science thing. And I'd love to see eventually some families get involved with that. So when we have bird walks, for example, wouldn't it be fun to share this with families? Even though this always happens in February and our bird walks will be in May and October, it would be great to have information to share with these people and say, look, even your kids can take part in this great backyard bird count. It's just very cool. And there's an internet interaction involved with it. Maps come up. I mean, it's an international effort. So it's fabulous. I'd love to see more Doylestown residents getting involved with the great backyard bird count every February.
Yeah, we'll work on that. Good point, Janine. There's some really exciting birds around too because of the cold. There's some horned larks in our area. There's American tree sparrows in the area, as well as some larps. What is it like? Let's see what else? And also the red poles. I'm pointing my head because they have a little red spot on their head and they have a little black bib, and they're so beautiful. So my eyes are peeled for them, hoping I'll see some.
So
Great.
Heidi, this is Mel. If you'll send me the link, I will post it on my homeowners association site and post it on other places as well, if you like.
Fantastic, Mel. Thank you so much. I will definitely get that out to you.
Wonderful.
I'll get on this tomorrow.
This needs to get out there. Great. Thanks for the help.
Thanks everyone.
Okay, moving along, pesticide-free communities. This is an initiative that Mel, one of our residents who is at our meeting tonight, has introduced us to. And Heidi is our point person on this initiative. So Heidi, take it away.
Sure. So just a couple weeks ago, Mel, Janine, and I came together on a Zoom meeting, a virtual meeting, and we just sat down. Really just Mel did a great job of putting an agenda together and deciding what our goals are. And our goals, basically, we decided really is just to focus first on education. You know, really getting that information out with a presentation, putting a presentation together, putting some flyers together, and focusing on the Board of Supervisors, getting our own people educated about this whole issue, as well as athletic groups and HOAs. So our focus right now is gathering information. Mel has been fabulous at putting a Dropbox together for us and putting lots of wonderful information in there. And so we'll be distilling that information and creating and putting together a lovely story, an interesting story to really grab people and get their attention about this issue. So our next meeting is on February 24th at 9:30. It's going to be a virtual meeting. So if anyone would like to join us, that would be great. The more the merrier. I think that's about it. Is there anything else, Mel, that you'd like to add for Janine?
I think that's it. It's a lot of material to go through, but I do think the material that is in the Dropbox will answer a lot of questions and dispel a lot of myths people have around organic land care management.
I'm really excited about this. This has been on our strategic plan for a couple of years now. It's so wonderful to have a program, the nonprofit community program, to provide some kind of structure for us moving forward with this. And Mel, it's so exciting to have you guiding us and helping us with this. So I'm so excited, that we can start moving on this on the township. It's critical. I'm very concerned about pesticides and the impact that they have on our wildlife, our birds, our animals, and obviously our residents of our township. So thank you so much for helping us guide us.
Welcome.
So if anybody else can come to that meeting, February 24th, 9:30. So it's good. I think we can eventually put together a cohesive 20-minute or so presentation that we can share. And Heidi made a good point that it seems that Zoom meetings actually attract more people than in-person meetings. In the past, we hoped to have people show up for workshops and things, and we'd have just a few people show up. But with Zooming, because you can do it from home, we could have a really dynamite presentation about pesticides and call a Zoom meeting and invite residents or take it to an HOA or 2 or 3 or 4. We do need that list of HOAs in the township. Stephanie said there is an existing list. So maybe Aaron, maybe you could help us find that list and get it to us before our February 24th meeting, if that's possible.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Jim, I wanted to ask you too, Jim, you like had showed interest in the beginning too. Would it be possible for you to help us with the presentation at all? Like at least giving it? I'm not great at giving presentations at this time of day, I'm tired. But you're a great presenter. Would you be interested in helping us with the presentation as far as giving it down the road?
Yeah, yes, I'm willing to help. I can't make the meeting on the 24th.
Okay.
But I mean, I think, I mean, I'm happy to do it, but I think between you and Mel, I'm sure you could do it. But if I can help in any way, I'm certainly willing.
Okay, great. Jim, thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. All right, next item under subcommittee. I didn't quite know where to put this, but I put it under subcommittee because I think that Tanya, Kurt, and I are kind of a subcommittee on this subject. And this is why Marie is here tonight, because tomorrow night there's a meeting and it's on the agenda listed as Neshaminy Greenway Trail Segment 2, Bucks County Planning Commission Citizens Advisory Committee. And I'm going to be going to that meeting, and Tanya and Kurt are alternates for subsequent meetings. This is a big deal. Tomorrow night at 6:30, there is a meeting, Zooming, of course, with Bucks County Planning Commission and several Buckingham EAC, Doylestown EAC, Warwick Tree Committee, Neshaminy Watershed Association, Marie Carrata, Jim Walter. Marie, help me. Who else is going to this meeting?
I think there's a Warwick Parks and Rec person.
Judy Hendrickson from our township Bike and Hike and Planning Commission. This is a meeting that has been called by the Bucks County Planning Commission to take another look at this segment of the Neshaminy Greenway Trail that Marie and Jim reported on in December. If you recall, in December, they had this very strong presentation in front of our EAC to explain why this segment of the Neshaminy Greenway Trail is problematic. Many of us are preparing for this meeting tomorrow night. I just want to say that I spent probably 7 or 8 hours looking at taking notes about the feasibility studies that was done for this segment of the Neshaminy Greenway Trail. This is the segment that goes from Route 263 to Route 611. It follows the Neshaminy Creek. Some of us had a chance to walk with Dan through a portion of this trail, this proposed trail. And some of us had a chance to walk with Marie and Jim and a farmer who lives right there on Pebble Hill Road, where this trail had a proposed access road. The long and the short of it, as far as I'm concerned, is this. In 2014, the feasibility study was in part based on a public input that was pretty sparse. When you study it, the public input was so tiny, and I'll have more to say about that tomorrow night at this meeting, that if they use that as in part to support the construction of this trail on that site, it's pretty lame. I mean, it's very lame. In addition to that, this segment of the trail is so fragile. It is wet. It is prone to heavy flooding. It's highly eroded. And the 2014 feasibility study talks in part, I'm going to give it a little bit of credit, it addresses some environmental concerns about floodplain, about wet areas, about having to rethink some trail building. And it mentions boardwalks as possible trail surfaces. Over and over again, I saw that. But what is being designed right now, and what we're going to be talking about tomorrow night, is a 10-foot wide asphalt trail that goes from 263, well, actually it begins at 611. We're going to start there. 611 down to 263, 10 feet of asphalt with 2 feet of gravel buffer on each side, 3 bridges across the creek in an area that is so delicate and also one of the few open space, wild places left around here.
Yep.
It is county owned. I have had a discussion and learned that, of course, the township, Doylestown Township, where this segment is primarily, it ends up in Warwick Township and a little tiny bit of it in Buckingham Township. The township cannot tell the county what to do with its land. And this trail is completely on county-owned land. But I object, and I am going to say so. I know that Marie and Jim have objected. There are many people who have signed onto a petition that they have developed. And I think I forwarded it to all of our EAC members, but some people are having a little bit of trouble signing that petition. But the bottom line is that in the last 7 years, somehow a trail has developed into a road. And it is slated for construction. The design is what we'll be talking about, and we're going to be asking for perhaps an independent environmental impact study. But we're also going to be asking for a redesign because this is an inappropriate design for this segment of the trail.
Janine, can I ask real quick? Can they also put in consideration to rerouting it as well?
I think that has to be part of the discussion. I think that that's part of what Jim Walter, who spoke to us in December, has actually come up with a pretty interesting possibility for rerouting.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say that the walk is going to be asphalt?
Asphalt, 10 feet wide.
What happened to a boardwalk?
It disappeared, and we have a theory about that, and I'm going to share it with you. Thank you for asking. It appears that this segment of the trail has been approved for to become part of what's called the circuit, which is a 750-mile proposed bicycling and hiking trail in the Philadelphia area. It's all over the region. And this is a connecting segment from the piece of the trail that's up by Turk Road and the piece of the trail that will be down across Route 263 and end up in Guinea Lane somewhere. The map, you have to look at the map to understand the trail itself. But the circuit is a bicycling dream, and it is happening. And the circuit trail requires a 10-foot wide asphalt surface.
Oh, man.
To that if you just do a little research, read about the circuit. And so somehow this segment of the Neshaminy Greenway Trail, and I think a lot of the additional plans for trails in our area are becoming part of the circuit. It's not like we're against trails. It's not like we're against bicycling, but to have a one-size-fits-all trail design makes no sense when you're talking about a fragile environmental area like this one. So we think that's part of what has happened over 7 years, that the initial discussion about this trail segment has evolved into a segment of the circuit.
Is part of this property is in back of Turk Road? Does it go there? I own a piece of ground there that they're talking about, and there's a swamp.
Marty, this particular part of the trail is on county-owned land.
Oh, county line, okay.
It's county-owned.
Oh, yeah.
The county's focusing right now on constructing parts of this trail on property they own so that they don't have to worry about getting easements in place, which make any project much more expensive.
Yes. And apparently, yeah, I don't want to prolong this, but what I wanted to ask our EAC, and Marie, correct me if I misspoke at all first.
I think you're about right.
Okay.
We're still, it's like forensic detective work because nobody knew much about it. And yeah, the Greenway Trail has here, at least, the plan that we heard in November, which they did not mention it being the circuit at all, was the 10-foot wide paved with bridges right through the floodplain, all in and out along the creek, which meanders very widely as you go down. And I asked them, where is it going after this? And they said, well, we're not sure. You know, there's a power line area, and you know, they're going section by section with plans. But the ultimate plan is this road. I call it a road. It's really a road. They wanted the ambulance to come across a bridge. I mean, it was like nuts. It was nuts. It was not a trail at all. And the fact that that was totally quiet, nobody knows about it. And it is the last strip of wild land untouched. You know, it's making putting a road through what could be a really nice nature park. If you wanted education and creek study or anything like that, it could be super if anybody had the energy to do it, you know. But what they're going to do to it is really going to, I think, ruin it.
It's called Dark Hollow Park. There is a name for this segment, and there is an access to it from Valley Road, which is actually part in Warwick. It's in Warwick Township. If you go down 263 heading toward Jamison, just at the 8 Arch Bridge, if you turn right there, it's Valley Road. And just about a quarter of a mile down on the right, there's a parking lot. And there's a sign that says that's a county park. But it's kind of a derelict parking lot. It's not plowed right now. I was there on Saturday. I took a look. And the plan does need to be revisited, but I don't think that the environment was at all addressed as this trail was being designed. And so we're going to be speaking up big time tomorrow night. And we're hoping that we have subsequent meetings. And I wanted to ask the EAC if you had anything specific that you wanted to ask about, because both Marie and I are going to be there tomorrow night, or any specific comments that you'd like us to make.
I think you got it.
I'm a little nervous about it.
This is somewhere else.
Janine, I wanted to say, and I think I sent it to Marie too, is the Board of Supervisors agreed to our resolution for Ready for 100. And this does fall under Ready for 100 as far as like dealing with, you know, extreme weather incidents now that are going to greatly impact this area, especially being in a flood zone. So maybe that could be brought into play as well, since it is something that the Board of Supervisors has already approved.
I think that's an excellent point. I think in terms of building in resiliency, the last thing you need to do is to pave over more of that stuff. I think that's a very important point.
I gotta tell you, I really disagree with that. I know that area well. If you do not do anything back there to manage the outflow, it will be destroyed as it is now. And I'm not saying the plan they have in place is perfect, but just ignoring it and leaving it alone, that area will be flooded out by runoff and large swaths of it will be ruined.
Well, but I mean, wouldn't a boardwalk be preferable to impervious surface?
Look, I'm not saying it is or isn't. I'm just saying like I think it's the wrong direction to say like to write it off altogether when we could have some positive engineering go back to help protect this area as well.
But Dana, this is a floodplain. You also have to look at habitat restoration and then planning a riparian buffer zone. I mean, putting culverts and those kind of things in is not the way to go at this point. I mean, you need to look at natural solutions here than bringing in huge equipment and ruining everything. I mean, putting a boardwalk in is definitely not the solution to fixing a floodplain problem. That's my opinion.
Heidi, what would you say is a solution to fixing a floodplain problem?
Riparian buffer zone. I just took part in the backyard stream repair class today through Penn State Extension, and really it's about repairing at buffer zones. It's doing plantings. You know, I don't know a lot about this, Janine. You probably know more as a master steward of the watershed, but I don't think bringing in equipment and putting a huge trail in is the answer here. I really think, you know, we need to look at it as habitat restoration. It's a very sensitive area, and you know, building something in a floodplain is not the way to go. Maybe a boardwalk or something, but you're going to have to bring huge equipment in to put a boardwalk in and put all those pillars in. So I don't know.
I have to say,
environmental study would be done.
after walking with Dan and Marie, you saw this too. And Tanya, you saw this too. The area that we walked from Duane Road is so badly eroded, it's shocking. It's in such terrible condition. And so, Dan, I hear you when you say that leaving it alone is perhaps not an answer. I mean, because it is being ruined.
I mean, it's an answer, obviously. Anything's an answer.
Mhm.
But my thought is, if the county wants to put a trail in here and pay for it, to push them on ways to do this. And, you know, I've read up on this, things like proper planting and planting can really help with the water management. And if we can
Yes.
if we can take advantage of the money they're willing to spend on that, I think that would be a good way to go with it as well.
And Jim Walter, who was at our meeting in December with Marie, is one of the instructors in the Master Watershed Steward Program through Penn State Extension. He has extensive knowledge about riparian buffers and stream bank erosion and remediation. And yes, he will be a valuable voice in what could be done to remediate the floodplain. The issue, however, is that this committee is about the design of this segment of the Neshaminy Greenway Trail. And Marie, I know that you.
Yeah, the route, we met with them in November and tried to ask about rerouting it and not having paving and all kinds of questions, getting an environmental study, shot down. So we're going back in and we're going to ask those same things again. And Jim thought to reroute it up along Elms House Road. The problem is there's houses right near the creek. And the county said, well, we'll cross the creek, we'll go along because there's farms and we don't have to cut any trees down. You know, we'll go along and then we'll cross back over. So we got to put 2 bridges in because of these houses. But there is a bit of a trail along Elms House Road, and then there is a steep slope, but it is county land on the other side. And if they could figure out a way to put a narrow trail in, maybe that is a raised boardwalk there. I don't know. I've seen it at Monticello in Virginia where they put boardwalks through old forest that without cutting any trees down, you know. That would save 2 bridges. It would save being in a floodplain. It's still on county land. I still don't like it because it's paving and it's 10 feet wide and it's crazy going through nature like that. But, you know, at least they're not in the floodplain. Like we could get that far, I feel, because if you watch these floods, they just wash everything out. They wash trees, everything. I mean, paving would be washed out. Boardwalk might be
very high maintenance because this is so prone to flooding. This is not going to be a maintenance-free trail. It's going to be high maintenance. And that goes, apparently those costs would be absorbed by the township. Am I right about that, Dan? Maintenance costs would be
No, it
absorbed?
wouldn't.
No?
Be
Who
county.
would maintain this?
The county is responsible for that. It could be our maintenance crews out doing it, but they would pay us for the maintenance for it.
Because
Isn't
it's owned
the
by
is-
the county.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Isn't the issue though, I mean, when we saw their presentation, it was obvious that the runoff, that huge amount of runoff that is undoubtedly affecting that part of the Neshaminy is from the Barn Cinema Coles complex that is built to within about 30 feet of the Neshaminy right there. I mean, it's asphalt all the way down. It would seem like they're going to have to remediate that, which is private property. They're going to have to do a buffer or something that would stop all that water from flooding into the Neshaminy at that point, which just scours out the stream banks further down.
That's one of the sources for the water, but there's flood water coming down. We're the mid trunk here of the creek. So you've got the north branch and the,
Yeah. And the farms too, I get it, yeah.
Lets out and the
seems
water
like
runs fast.
Maybe there's two issues, is where this proposed trail is, floodplain or possibly getting it into higher ground, which would be a great idea. And then remediating the ongoing erosion, which is probably almost a separate issue.
It is a separate issue, yes.
Yeah, because what we're going to be focusing on because the county called this meeting is the trail.
Right.
Yeah, not remediation of erosion or floodplain. No.
But I mean, I take Dan's point that if the township probably does not have the money to do one thing or the other. So it's going to have to come from a bigger pot, and I assume that's the county. If anything's going to happen, remediation or the trail moving.
Well, we're going to move on from this because we have other business. However,
I'm sorry, Janine, I just want to bring up one quick thing about remediation.
Of course.
Is this committee aware of the MS4 plans that we do in the township?
I don't know.
No,
So
not in general, no.
A quick background and how this might impact that. We are legally mandated by the state to reduce the amount of pollutant runoff into our waterways in Doylestown Township. And one of those pollutants includes silt and other soil runoff into our creeks. So we do have a requirement to spend money to fix this. And it's actually one of our big budget items that we have to address. So I just want to point that out as something to keep in mind when we talk about creek erosion, that kind of thing, that we are looking for these kinds of projects that we can do in affordable ways to meet our requirements from the state.
Dan, is there a plan in the township to address these kind of issues? You have the MS4 requirements, but is there a greater plan of how to deal with these kind of issues that we can maybe help with down the road as an EAC?
Not at this stage. We have an engineering firm contracted to help with MS4 fallout, as they call it, and help to direct ways to address that. It's kind of I believe it's a 5-year cycle for that.
It's a 5-year cycle. Aaron's saying, yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, Aaron is saying, yes, it's a 5-year cycle. Where are we in that cycle?
To be honest, I'm not sure off the top of my head where we
probably
are at
doesn't
that. I
matter.
think we're on the later end of it, though.
Okay, so when it comes to stormwater management, the MS4 requirements are part of what we probably need to know more about.
Yeah, definitely.
So, okay, thank you.
And Dan, we talked about, getting together sometime to look at the storm, basins too, the water basins.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up later in the meeting.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. And
well, I just I think I'm wondering, I look every time I go past it at the storage facility that's on the other side of Neshaminy Creek from the Barn Cinema that's been closed since the pandemic. But the storage facility is open. I remember when that plan came before us, we recommended a lot more planting on a very steep slope that goes down from the leveled part of that property down to the Neshaminy. I don't believe anything was ever planted in there. I don't even think they put in the foundation shrubs that they had originally proposed. And a part of the problem, I think, for us as an EAC is that we're simply advisory. We can say, yes, we recommend that you put X number of things in, but if there's nobody following through on that and saying to that builder, well, where are all these? where are all these plants? Then, you know, they're gonna just not do it. It costs them
Well,
money.
but-
They
but
don't
isn't-
want to do it.
Yeah, but isn't that what code enforcement is supposed to do? I assume, I don't
I'm
know.
not sure how it falls because it's simply a recommendation rather than a requirement, is my understanding, for the developer to adhere to or not.
And I don't think that's right. I think that there is a legal obligation for the stormwater management as part of any development. I was looking at developing a piece of property, and that was clearly part of what I had to take into account, was a legal requirement to deal with the stormwater. And you can design a bunch of different ways to do that. Obviously, you were making as an EAC a recommendation as to how to do that, which is great. But the final development plan that gets signed off has to deal with stormwater management. It can't not deal with it. And if they don't build what they said they were going to do in the development, then that is a code enforcement issue.
That would be right. But if the only, I guess if the only recommendation was to plant more plants and they didn't do it, I'm not sure what we can come back on them for. I
Well,
don't
there-
know the answer to that.
Remember when we revised the native plant ordinance, which is actually called the landscape and buffer planting ordinance? And we put in all those native plants, you know, we worked for half of a summer on that project. Well, that's an ordinance that needs to be enforced. That is the kind of thing that should be enforced. And
So
so,
can we- I'm sorry, Janine, so as an EAC, Anna is recognizing this, can we bring it before Stephanie and say, hey, we see that this was not done, what do you got, what can be done about it?
so
Right.
can we advise, is that one of the things we can advise, to look into the enforcement of that ordinance at that site?
Sure.
Why not?
I think that's something we need to do.
Okay.
I don't know, does that take a motion or is that something that we do informally? I would formalize that. How about you guys?
I agree.
Go ahead, Marty.
I agree. It should be checked on. And somebody has to be held responsible.
Yeah.
So what are we asking exactly? Are we making a motion to ask? I mean, do we know, for example, that the storage place didn't do the plantings, or we know that for a fact? Or
I think
No.
a group of us should go out and take a look at it, number one, first, before we start yelling.
Well, let's do it. Let's go take a look.
I-
It's private property though. Wait a minute. Wait, it's private property. So we
Right.
have to be careful not to trespass. If it's not public property.
I think we should take advice from Stephanie before we formalize anything.
Yeah.
I think the point's a good one. There was a plan, there was an agreement. It should be, it should be enforced. So I think we should just talk to Stephanie and ask if that property did in fact
Comply. Yeah.
apply. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And with
Maybe do
whatever-
a mapping, maybe we can map it out to see to see if we can find any plantings.
You mean take
We
a
al-
look
we
at
will-
it?
We also need to pull whatever their final development plan was, so that we know that indeed that's what they put forward and was
That
adopted.
is true, Kurt. Yes, you're right.
Okay, I want to ask somebody to do this. I can't take on anything more right this moment, but it would be
All right.
really good for one of us to just kind of ask some questions, get some data, get some facts about whether that storage facility did indeed follow through on planting, and then B, if they didn't, what can we do?
Okay, so Janine, if you want, I can email Stephanie, raise the question, and ask her to come prepared to talk about it perhaps at the next meeting.
That sounds like a good idea.
I think that's a perfect solution because
Yeah.
she'll have access to all the plans and all the follow-up and everything else. Yeah.
And if we can find that plan, I'm sure it's somewhere, maybe we can pull it and review it between now and then. So, Aaron, I'll copy you on the email, and if you were able to locate that plan for that storage unit on the corner of Edison Furlong and
Well, it's not really on the corner.
No,
It's right on
the- yeah.
611. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on 611.
Can you get it? The satellite map is pretty good. You can see something.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, I
good,
see what you're
Tony.
saying, yeah.
That's, I'm looking at it
Aaron,
right
I'll
now.
copy, maybe you can pull that plan for us if you can find it out. But Tanya, your points are good, and we can probably just Google map it, yeah.
And then you guys will share with us what you discover.
All right.
Okay, and then we'll figure out where to go from there.
But I
Yeah.
think Jim's idea of apprising Stephanie and asking her if she could speak to that particular issue. And that's just an example. That's one I go by all the time. And it came before us. But there may be other things, Pine Run had something, I don't go up to Pine Run, so I don't know if whatever they did.
Right.
Maybe they planted more trees. I have no idea, but it's just, I don't know if there's follow-up on that to make sure that the developer actually does what they claim they're going to do.
And I do think this falls under the heading of Shade Tree Commission as well, does it not?
It does.
Yeah, so, that's another hat that we all wear.
Right.
And
right.
so, yeah, I think we do perhaps need to be a little bit more, a little bit more vocal, perhaps. Good, thank you. Yeah, I think we're onto something there. And it does connect to this larger issue that we're discussing, that I was just going to say, we probably shouldn't keep going on and on about it. But if you guys have any further thoughts about what Marie and I, as the Doylestown Township representatives to this Bucks County Planning Commission meeting tomorrow night, if you have any more input, please email if a thought comes up. So thank you for listening and for ideas if you have some more.
Now, Janine, I just have a question about that. Is it just one? I mean, I know you're going as alternates. Are we allowed to go, or do we just stay back?
I think at this point, did you get a letter, Kurt and Tanya? Did you guys get a letter? Welcome.
I got invited.
I wonder, what do you think, Marie? Then maybe you should be there if you can.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. The more the better.
Yeah.
Then be there. Kurt, can you be there?
No, I have a conflict.
Okay, but if Tanya, if you can be there tomorrow night, it's 6:30.
I might have to leave early, but to drive my son, but at least I could be there for some amount of time.
That would be great. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Good. All right. I think, as you said, the more people who are there, the better. Okay, gang. So ongoing and old business, the tree signs for Central Park, we just talked about that a little bit. We're hoping that we don't have to absorb the full cost of the frames and the posts. So we'll find out more about that from you, Aaron. Thank you. The signs are going to be beautiful, and then we'll have to walk around and cite them. We'll figure out where they would serve best, but they're going to be beautiful, guaranteed. Invasive plant of the month, Heidi.
Yes, I just put together information about wineberry. It's the invasive plant of the month. I sent it to Aaron. He's already posted it onto the township and township website. And also, was it posted on Facebook as well, Aaron?
Not yet.
Okay, but yep, it's all done. And the next one for March is the gold running bamboo.
Oh, good.
Which we're seeing too much of. If you start, I'm sure you notice it as well as I do. It's quite a bit of it. Yeah, it's too much of that. Those invasive plant of the month pages are so lovely. I would like to see them hanging in the administration building when life gets back to normal again and we can go into that building. Wouldn't it be cool to have the invasive plant of the month posted where people see it, like right on the glass there, you know? I think it'll get more attention.
Can we post it at the environmental center too? We have that place to put it now. Is it possible to put it there as well?
It should be there. Absolutely. It should be there. Yeah.
Who has the key?
Yeah. So say that again.
Who has the key to put it inside there?
I don't. Oh, Chris Mason has the key.
Is there a way to get it to Chris for him to put it in so he can post it there as well?
I meet him. We email. You know, when I say it's time to change the display, I email him. He meets me there. We always have a good conversation. We walk around. But yes, that invasive plant of the month needs to be in the display case at the Environmental Education Center. Yes, it does. Good.
I love that whole series. And once we get the 2 years, we should really consider putting that together in a booklet so that people could have it and say, oh, January, what should I be looking for?
Yep.
We'll talk about that more as, it goes on, but it's something to percolate. I know we have a lot of other things to cover tonight.
I know.
Okay, great. Okay, item C, survey and EAC input about proposed new township activities building. Jim, you were our representative to that meeting, or to that person.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't have my notes with me, but from my recollection, so I met with the individual. It was, one was an engineer and the other was from the architectural firm. And it sounds like there's, there were a lot of questions that we raised that they simply don't have answers to yet, because they're in the process of collecting information to help make some decisions about those very things that we had asked about. So there's no final decision made on the size, the scope, the purpose of the building. All the things that we talked about are in play. Certainly the idea that it would be, certainly it seemed that, when you talk about a rec center, then by its very nature, it has to be a multi-purpose facility. It's not typically not strictly a sports facility, but would be a multi-purpose facility. But again, that's all still to be decided. There will be additional public meetings in the future, he assured us, and Stephanie and Karen Sweeney would be the people that would be running that. Now, in terms of the scope of the building, what he did say is, as far as he understood, the cost was going to be around $4 million, and the size of it was going to be around 12,000 square feet, give or take. So it is a sizable building. It's a very sizable building, and it's a big expense, $4 million. It's not clear, it wasn't clear to him that the intention was that this building had to generate any revenue. So although it might be rented out for some to some groups, it wasn't clear to him that there was a business case to do any of that at this point. So it may fall squarely on the cost may fall squarely on the taxpayer, which again, if it's a public building, then that's what it is. So I think he understood our views, and we talked a lot about making it as green and as carbon free as possible, and building in a number of environmental considerations and using it as a way to demonstrate best practices for sustainable building. I think he got that. He asked if we thought it should be LEED certified. I didn't think that was necessary, because again, there's a big expense to LEED certification just to get the plaque on the building. He did actually, he mentioned, I think it's, there's another township building, I want to say it's Bryn Mawr, or that has a beautiful township building that incorporates all these native plantings and pervious surfaces. I was there for Lower Merion? I was there for a meeting not too long ago. Beautiful building. So I think he has in mind what we were talking about. I think he understood what we were talking about. And we'll have to see. I think we'll just have to pay very close attention to how this evolves over time, and make a lot of noise if we want to, if we want to be heard.
Well, if there's more public input that's being solicited, we do need to pay really close attention to that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think yes. So I think and Dan, do you know if there's any, can you give us any insight into what additional public input is being sought now for that rec center?
I'm not sure where they are in who they've talked to at this point. I haven't seen the full schedule, but they're talking pretty much any group we can think of that might be impacted or have an interest in using the facility at all. So
Okay.
I'm
But
not
public
sure the
meetings?
exact timeline on that, though.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the current newsletter that just came out this week has on the budget part has, lastly, we're planning to allocate funds over the next 5 years to address the need for our proposed park and recreational and community center facility. When the time comes, we want to have appropriate borrowing available to accommodate the anticipated $4.9 million spending in the beginning of late 2021. In addition, we anticipate utilizing the funds received from the sale of the cell tower lease at the township complex to assist with the project. So they're already past the 4 million just in the budget thing. And you know that no building ever gets made for what it's it's initially priced at. So it'll be quite a bit more than that. That's a huge lift for taxpayers, I think, but.
Yeah, we'll see where that comes. Those aren't solid numbers from what we've talked about with the Board of Supervisors. That hasn't been approved.
What's with the cell tower lease? What's that about?
So we have that cell tower in Central Park, which is on township property, and I forget who owns it. I think it's a company that then turns around and puts Verizon and all them on there.
Okay.
But because it's on our property, we get it's a couple $100,000 off it. I'm not sure the exact amount off the top of my head, but that can go back into our building projects.
But Dan, I don't think you were at the last meeting, but I think when we filled out that survey, but I think just to emphasize to you, I think one of the things we thought was important was that if obviously a large building is going to change the character of Central Park.
I was there. I remember the conversation.
Oh, were you there at the
Yeah,
last
he
meeting?
was
I don't
on.
remember. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Thank you.
I just want to say something really quickly. I did Climate Watch this past week with my husband. I was down in the lower part of the county, down by Core Creek Park and below there. And there's so much areas that are paved. And there were so few birds. There's so few areas anymore that they can even have habitat there. And I'm just concerned that that's going to happen to us up here. And it's something to really keep an eye on. That we really need to think about our open spaces and how that affects the entire bird population and wildlife habit, overall ecosystem. We're taking over everything. Everything's just being developed, and I'm just so worried about it. Between this trail and then this building, I'm just like, what's gonna be left in our township for the other beings that live here? So I just wanted to say that because I was very
Yes, I totally second that, Heidi. And I also want to bring up that Hart's Woods, this would be adjacent to Hart's Woods, which is now a protected property, both with Heritage Conservancy and our part. And this seems like it would be a violation of that woods on top of everything else. I'm very much against the building. So I don't know why it has to be in Central Park. If they're insisting on doing a building, why can't it be at Turk 3, which is all open and flat anyway?
We don't own Turk 3. That's county property.
Okay.
We have a long lease though with them, right? Isn't it being negotiated for us to buy it?
Don't know how long it is, but it's not our property.
Okay.
So that would require
any other
a
sites
much longer
you can
term
look at?
agreement.
Okay. Were any other sites besides Central Park even looked at?
Different sites in Central Park, but all at Central Park.
At Central Park, right?
Originally, this, before my time on the board, was supposed to be part, if you remember where the old Parks and Rec Center was.
Activity Center,
It was
yeah.
supposed to be in that neck of the woods, but the engineering firm responsible for the township building, or the one I think previously, screwed up the what's it called, the surveying royally. And that's kind of where this project has ended up. This was all supposed to be part of the new township building at one point.
Right.
But yeah, that again before my time, but that's how we've kind of ended up at this point with it.
Okay.
Well, as an EAC, we have we've talked about preserving and protecting and restoring open space and township-owned lots. Here we are again. That's where we are, trying our best to maintain the little bit of wild that's left and the little bit of open space that is left. And we need to continue to be vocal about that. Here it is again. It just keeps on keeping on. And it's true. You can't even bird around that native plant garden very much because there's just not that many birds. Even though we've been planting natives there, Hart's Woods not loaded with birds even now. I've walked with Diane Smith from the Bucks County Audubon Society twice, and we see almost nothing. Well, wherever we can preserve some open space, a little bit of habitat, we really need to be vocal about this.
Yeah.
And your objection to this building is something I've been thinking about. I agree with you. I think this is misplaced. It's too big.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I think about it, what's going to happen to that side of Central Park as a result of a giant building with parking lots? Come on. What happens to the park feel of the park?
Yes.
So anyway, we have to be vigilant.
I think so too. And I think it's in a position on not only Arts Woods, but also the Sensory Trail. And that was funded by CB Cares and some other partners. That was a very expensive project. And the whole point is to get kids away from activity, give them a serene outdoor place. There's so little for kids on the spectrum for outdoor recreation, that people come literally from other states to use that. And it's just going to be ruined with a building plopped down there and all the activity around that building.
Well, we took part in the survey. What more can we do?
I don't know.
I think we need to investigate that. We are advisory.
The next steps that I would recommend to keep an eye on is once they start to after they interview everyone, they will give us an early sketch and plan for it, and we will be seeking public feedback on this every step of the way. So that's when to raise concerns, when we have a more as the plan starts to come together and we see what it's going to look like.
Maybe
or
it's
proposals for what it's going to look like, to be more specific.
Okay, proposals, yeah. So there will be multiple proposals, do you think, Dan?
Yes.
Okay,
And I would also consider raising your concerns to Supervisors Ryan Mannion and Barbara Lyons. They're both on the task force subcommittee, whatever you want to call it, that is overseeing this project.
is it, it's okay for us to call them, to email them?
Of course.
Sit
Yep.
down and chat? We can do that. So it's Ryan Mannion and Barbara Lyons.
Barbara comes out of a parks background too. So she's going to be, I'm sure, all in on this, but I didn't think Ryan Mannion was continuing on the board. Is she, Dan?
She is.
She
Okay.
is, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Unless you've heard something recent that I haven't heard.
I thought that as well,
Ryan's
Ann.
term's
I
not
thought
up
that as
till
well.
2023. So
I don't know. Okay, well, once again, we have so many issues to pay attention to. We all have to be alert and pay attention. And yes, you can call people, you can have conversations, you can send emails to people and express your concerns, you can ask your questions. Please do that. We are the voice of the environment in our township. We're the ones watching. And you know that most people don't have time or interest to watch it. But that's us. We're kind of a watchdog group. So pay attention, do your thing. When something bothers you, ask the questions, make the phone call, write the email. Thanks, everybody. And thank you, Jim, for being our spokesperson after that survey we took.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Proposed meeting about park volunteers. This is going nowhere, it seems.
Again. Nowhere again.
Again. However, Kathy Brown and I, Kathy is the chair of the Parks and Rec Board. We have agreed to meet on March 2nd, which is the Tuesday before our March EAC meeting. We would like the March EAC meeting to be another joint meeting between EAC and Parks and Rec. And Kathy and I will do a little bit of footwork ahead of time to discuss an agenda. And I'd like to hear from all of you about what should be on that agenda. We have for the past 2 or 3 years had a March joint meeting, a 1-hour meeting before our EAC meeting in March with Parks and Rec. There's a lot to talk about, including this item on the agenda, the proposed idea of having a group of township residents called something like Park Partners or some other catchy phrase, so that we have a group of volunteers that can go out and help with all kinds of things, the summer concerts, the debris pickup after a storm, the maintenance of, or the removal of invasive plants. You know, there are a lot of reasons to have a nice little group of volunteers, resident volunteers to work in the parks. It takes some of the pressure off the staff. It could be a really good thing, but we can't seem to get township interest on this. So we're spinning our wheels, it seems. So let's talk about it with the Park and Rec Board in March.
Janine, why does it keep on spinning? It's been like, we've been talking about this for like 3 years now. What is the holdback? What is the problem? Why is it not moving forward? Do you know why?
I don't. In fact, I had a site visit with Karen Sweeney and Chris Mason to take a look at the native plant garden earlier in the year, like right after the new year, I think it was. Or maybe, no, it was right before Christmas. That's what, it was in December. So Chris and Karen and I were, enthusiastically embracing the idea of a group of volunteers. And I know that Kathy Brown of Parks and Rec is also enthusiastic about this idea, but we just can't seem to get a meeting with staff to say, are you with us? Let's go through the steps. So what I'd like to do is perhaps come up with a plan. I think people like a plan. Step 1, step 2, step 3. So perhaps that's where we need to go to come up with, a multi-step plan on how to get this thing off the ground. It's a good idea. Other places have done it. I think the model for it is Rock Creek Park in Washington, D.C. Apparently they have a nice group of volunteers who help to maintain that park.
Is there someone to contact that they could give us some advice about how they got started and plan that they used?
I don't know. I guess that's one of the things we could probably do is find out, or just go online and read about it. But that's, Kathy's told me that she has seen that or read about that. So I guess that before the March meeting, Kathy and I will meet, and anybody else is welcome to join us on March 2nd. And just, I don't know if we have a time yet, but we're going to just talk about it. And then, so when we have our joint meeting, we have something in place. So
I'll help with that, Janine.
Yeah, I'm interested. I really would like to see this move forward. We have so much work that needs to be done. We'll have such a small staff. I know that we could make a huge, impact on our township and our parks by getting a group of volunteers together. I think that people are looking for opportunities to participate. We just need to provide that. And,
yeah,
I'll look into see if I can find anything out about Rock Creek Park volunteers.
That would be great. And then, and Anne said, you said you could join us.
Yeah, I'd like to try. I mean, it's either going to fly or not, but I think we need to, if it doesn't go this year, I think we probably need to say, this isn't going to work for us and move on.
Yeah, maybe.
For whatever reason, because we have had meetings, we've tried to get people focused on this. It just hasn't, I don't know why it hasn't flown, but it hasn't.
So so maybe Karen can be part of that. I don't know.
That'd be awesome, because I think she would be, if she would commit to it, I think that would be really a great addition.
Okay, I'll see if she can join us too.
Rock Creek has a website about their Rock Creek partners, so you might try starting there to find out who to contact.
Kara, can you send that to me, please?
I'm sorry?
Can you send that link to me, please? Since you have
I
it.
can try to do so. I think if you just do a search on Google for Rock Creek Park Partners, that's how I found it while we were talking, just to see what's there. There's a few different sites, so I'm sure there's some contact information there.
I used to live there. I used to live right next to that park when I
Lovely.
It's a beautiful park.
It is a beautiful park. Yeah.
Were you a partner?
I was not. I don't think they had a program back then. It was, that's where I had on my husband and I lived there when John was working at NIH.
Very cool. Well, thanks, Kara. We'll take a good look at that too before that meeting. Excellent. Anybody else about that concept, Park Partners? Okay, moving on. Proposed meeting about township-owned lots and open space as potential green corridors.
What's happening?
Say again?
What's happening with that?
Not a thing. Nothing.
Are we waiting on, who are we waiting on? Dave?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how to get that. I don't know. Again, it's a meeting that needs to take place. And in the context of derelict lots, like the one at Kara, in the context of the Neshaminy Greenway Trail Segment 2,
and
in the context of so many open space / lots, and we really need to talk about this, but I can't make it happen. If I email somebody, I don't get an answer.
Yeah, I've had problems with that too, with township staff, but how can we get around that?
I don't know.
Dan, do you have any suggestions?
Well, Dave is one of those people that when they were back in the trailers and I was doing about 100 things with Bicentennial too. He's one of those people, if you can just duck into his office and say, Dave, do you have 5 minutes? He's great. He doesn't really tend to respond to emails. I think he probably gets a slew of them every day and it's just overwhelming. I don't know, but he's not a big email person. Well, right now with the building closed, blah, 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 it's not going to happen that we can just duck in, and you can't do that anymore anyway because of the security. But so I don't know what the strategy would be here, other than maybe go through Steph and just say, can you help facilitate? I don't know.
All right.
Janine, I'd be willing to do a little brainstorming session with you if you'd like. Maybe we could just come up with some bullet points, and if anyone else wanted to join in, maybe we could just do a half an hour of brainstorming.
It's a great idea.
Aside from the meeting, and just come up with some alternatives, divvy up some things to do, and have more of an idea of how we want to go about it, what some of our options are. I'd be willing to help with that.
That would be great. I think a brainstorming session, coming up with some bullet points, and then we could send that. That would be again having a little bit of a plan, not just a wide open, hey, let's sit down and talk.
If you go in and ask somebody what to do, they're gonna go, I don't know. But if you go in with some ideas of things and maybe put it in writing a bit and hone it down, some requests and some information, that might help move it forward.
That makes good sense.
It does, although I think what Dave was trying to get hold of was in the areas that the township holds, the open space areas that the township holds, because we've taken out a lot of ash trees for safety reasons. He wanted a planting plan as to how to reestablish plant trees back into those areas. And then that's a little bit different than what to do with the theater lots and things like that. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a little bit two different projects.
It is, but they're connected.
They are connected. And the other thing too, Stephanie had mentioned that there's a possibility that the township could get the old shooting range, which would link Neiman to Bridgepoint Park. That'd be a huge get. And that's right all along the Neshaminy. Do you know what I mean? The shooting range?
Yes, it's mentioned in the feasibility study from 2014 about the Neshaminy Greenway Trail.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, because it is a large area. And
technically, I believe the county leases that to the gun range. I don't think the gun range owns that property.
And I'm not sure that it's active any longer.
Oh, it's active.
Oh, yes, it is.
I hear it all the time.
Yeah, I hear it all the time. It's active.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
well, there would probably be a lot of lead remediation on that property too.
That's true. That's right.
Yeah, there would be. Well, okay. So Kara, you and I are gonna just do some brainstorming together.
Fine.
Would you email me? Would you just, because I don't.
Email you a reminder?
Yeah, email me a reminder. Yeah, and then we'll set a time.
Okay.
And, we'll talk. And anybody else want to join that conversation?
I will.
Heidi, good. Okay. So
I might be able to, depending on when you meet.
Okay.
Great, Tanya.
We'll send an email out and figure out a time that works for people. And, if we do like a 45-minute brainstorm, we, half hour, 45 minutes, we might just consolidate our thinking and some steps forward for these things.
Good. Makes perfect sense. Thank you. And just so if you remind me, then we'll make it happen. We'll come up with some possible times. Listen, some of you are still working. So, what is evening best?
I can meet during the day. But
it depends, because I lately I have a lot of meetings in the evenings as well. So.
Okay, so we'll try to come up with something.
Find something, Tanya.
Okay, thanks everybody. We'll try to make something happen. That's what we keep doing. Okay, moving on. EAC strategic plan review. So some of us have sent feedback to Heidi, and because she sent us the review, and we would like the updated plan to be in the March EAC packet.
Okay, you guys. Well, so a number of you have contacted me, which I really appreciate. Thank you so much. So we had the strategic plan, and then I put a review together, and I went through the 4 different strategies that we have, and then broke them down into tasks that are completed, tasks that were put on hold because of COVID, and then tasks that need to be addressed. I tried to be as thorough as I could. I did miss a few things, so thanks for catching those. But I'll put together all the comments and everything, and then we can discuss it further in March.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. That's going to be great. You know, it was only how many years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, when we decided to put together a strategic plan. I think I think it's been very, very helpful to review what we have accomplished, to stay focused on what we're trying to accomplish, and to look ahead at what we hope to accomplish in the future. It's very, very helpful. So thank you, Heidi, for taking on that task. It's very complicated too.
It is, it's complicated, especially because we're coming to the end. I mean, it's 2021 is when it ends. We really, and then we also need to start thinking as the year goes on about putting a new, plan together. Do we want to use the same kind of template? Was it, did you like it being a working document and so on? So things to be thinking about as we go forward of, what it would look like in the future, the next 3 years.
So we'll see this plan in March. It'll be in the packet so that we have time to look at it beforehand.
Okay, great.
Okay. The EAC calendar has mysteriously disappeared. We can't find it.
Yeah, it's so strange. I had it linked on my computer, and the link is just vanished. So I don't know if that particular server. I mean, this was a public. It was a free app or something, but it seems to have disappeared.
Yeah, we can't seem to find it at all. Aaron couldn't find it in the files that he inherited. And nobody can find the thing. So I guess we have to start over.
Has anyone contacted Andrea about it?
I don't, Aaron, are you in touch with your predecessor at all?
I can email her about it. I don't expect I'll receive good information about that from my past experience.
Okay, so well, let's, you know what, maybe I know somewhere, here it is. Look, I actually have it. This is a copy. This is what it looked like. I have one copy of the EAC calendar, and I can show it to you. Or, I can scan it to you, Aaron, so that you at least see what we had.
Yeah, take a picture of it with the phone, text it to my cell phone, or scan it and email it to me, either way.
Okay, I'm going to get you this then. And then,
that might give me a point to start from.
Yeah, it's not that complicated. It's just a matter of setting up some columns and, a couple of things. But if you see what we had, we can move on and have a calendar again. It was helpful, and we need to have it again, I think.
Okay.
Anybody else about the calendar? Okie dokie. So, Dan, did you have something you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, I'll make it relatively quick because I don't have a whole lot to add on it. I did reach out to New Britain Township, and one of my peers there, Cynthia Jones, who's a township supervisor there, and she said, I asked her about their basin management program because it was brought up that they're a good example of that. And she informed me they don't really have one. It's actually just her husband that goes out and kind of handles doing that. Now she said he'd be happy to help discuss plans with us for that. But as far as an actual township plan, they don't have one.
But Dan, I think Warrington does. I know,
Okay.
Barbara Brown has been very involved in Warrington EAC, and they've done a lot with their basins. So again, I'm happy to. I've already reached out to Barbara about this. She's aware that we have interest, and I'm happy to set up something with you if you wish.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Cynthia Jones' husband is Ken Jones, and he was in my Master Watershed Steward class.
Yeah, I saw she mentioned that. I figured that you might know.
Yeah, and they have a basin behind their house in New Britain Township that he got permission to work on it, and they remediated that basin. It's really very nice. But again, Jim Walter is a Master Watershed Steward. So am I. So is Ken Jones. And Barbara Brown has experience. I think we can have a pool of some talent and some experience and knowledge that we could pass on. Perhaps this is part of our attempt at doing better with our open space, because a basin is, after all, an open space. We just don't want it to be mowed lawn.
And there's also an interest from a township perspective of possible cost saving measures if we do it correctly,
Mhm,
that we don't have to go out there and mow them consistently, and we could save some money on that.
mhm. Yeah,
And
it's
that
what-
would be part of the MS4, requirements as well, right?
Possibly. I don't know the specifics of how that would work, but I would have to think there's some kind of benefit in that regard.
So when Kara well, Kara, let's make sure that's on our list, the naturalization of basins. Because that's a piece of this very large puzzle about open space, little lots, green corridors, naturalized basins. It's all really one piece. It's land. It's the protection and restoration and preservation of land, whatever is still there.
And reduction of mowing too, Janine, we could add to it.
Say it again.
A reduction of mowing could also be added to that.
Absolutely. Reduction of mowing is a piece of it. Yep, definitely a piece of it. So we want to try to discourage lawn as well.
We're
Just to give
already
you
brainstorming then.
Yep.
Just to give you some more points to maybe start with on that idea. I do know the state does have a video series exactly about that point with basins and naturalization of them on their website. And if you wanted an example, I do know Villanova University did exactly that to almost 3 acres of their lots and plan, and they have a pretty good example of one to look at.
Can you send us that information, please?
Yep.
Send us
Aaron,
the
that's
link.
great.
Yeah, that's terrific. Thanks, Aaron. Perfecto. Wow. Dan, anything else from you?
That's all I had.
Okay, anything from anyone else? Well, I'm going to see Tanya and Marie tomorrow night at this planning commission meeting, and we'll let you know how that goes. We have a lot going on. I was looking at the EAC handbook, and it does suggest that EACs are careful not to overdo.
Too late.
It's too late for us. We are doing so many different things, but forging ahead, not perfect, but perfectly imperfect. So thank you, everybody. Where's my
Okay.
cardinal? All right, how about a motion to adjourn then?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
And second,
I'll second.
okey doke, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The cardinal says good night to everyone. Bang, 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 meeting adjourned.
Good to see you.
Thanks, Janine.
Good, very good. Thanks,
Good
everybody.
night.
Hey, everyone.